What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. So Unified Ascension is in the game now, and this basically means you can put your Ascension points wherever you want. It's no longer a points assigned to a individual category, which this is going to change kind of our thought process, or I think it will anyway, on how we build a defense-related or builder character when first starting in Dungeon Defenders 2. Now, previously, when you were at, say, 60 Ascension, you had 20 points in offense, 20 points in defense, and 20 points in utility. Well, it was kind of a no-brainer on some of the points. The best thing on the entirety of the board for any character that builds defenses is defense speed. So your 20 points at 60 Ascension in the defense category would always go directly into defense speed. Under utility, the most powerful points on the board would be defense crit chance for a builder. So you would put your first 20 points into defense crit chance. Now we don't have those limitations. We can put points wherever we want, and it's going to allow brand new players, or if you're just a starting player, to really progress through the game a little bit faster, as you can get a little bit more power early on by placing your Ascension in the proper spots. So for the sake of this experiment, let's create two new heroes. Let's do Hunters, and we will compare... We'll compare Spectral Knights here. Let's do one more Hunter, though. That way we have two of them.
The hunter was once.
And let's get started. Now, I didn't have this. Just look at this as if it was a medallion. It's an older item. These items don't exist in the game anymore. But it's one of the only relics I had at campaign level were all marks. So I'm going to have to use this as an example. It's just a defense power relic. So it's the exact same as a medallion. Now, I wanted something at campaign level with no mods or anything equipped. So let's go ahead and pop that on our Spectral Knight. And we'll give it the trifecta of shards early game. So we got Destruction, we got Defense Rate, and we got Deadly Strikes. These three shards, of course, will get you through the entire base game experience until you start collecting things like some of the Hyper Shards or whatever as you progress through. Now, with this relic and these shards, we take a look at our Spectral Knight here, we slap it down, and we are doing 2,347 DPS. Now, as we already know, the most important 20 points for a builder is our defense speed. So defense speed is going to rule the roost. Your first 20 points go in this category if you build defenses. So just get them in there, y'all. You won't regret it. Now, what after the 20 points? Now, traditionally, we would go into defense crit chance for a builder. Let's put 1 point into defense crit chance, and then take a look at our defense again. See, we are now up to 5,003 DPS from that short or small gain in crit chance. Now let's go ahead and swap things over to our other hunter. So we're going to grab the same relic and the same three shards. Let's just go ahead and pop those in. Once again, our first 20 points have got to go into defense rate. If we go ahead and pop down a Spectral Knight, we see we are at 4984. And if we put 1 point into the defense power of the knight instead of crit chance and take a look, we are at 5,018, so slightly better than the crit chance. Now, what about if we were to use the first 20 point or the next 20 points? So let's assume we are Ascension level 40 and we take a look. Well, we've got our 20 points in defense speed. Let's go ahead and get our next 20 points in the defense crit chance and see what we've got here now. If we slap her down now, we are at 5,368 DPS. So we got a nice little gain there, 5368. Now, what happens if we do the same thing, but we go into power instead of crit? So let's grab our relic back and our 3 shards. We are going to want to take this to 20 points. So let's get 20 points into defense power and take a look at it and see where we are at now. So once again, this guy's got 40 points all in defenses. This one's got 20 and 20 split. And in this configuration, if we take a look, we're now at 5,666 DPS. So a nice gain in DPS for dumping everything into power. So if you're progressing through the game, you've got one defense that you really like if I was a brand new player progressing on the Hunter, for example, I would be using Spectral Knights. They're just really, really good. This is what I personally would use. So this is how I would build it. I would put my points into power prior to crit. Now, let's say, for example, you want to use a Spectral Knight, but you also want to use a Sonic Bat, and you also want to throw some gargoyles in the lane. And there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, play around with all of the defenses. Well, with this situation, those 20 points, of course, are only affecting my Spectral Knight. Oops, I just put another point in. Where defense crit chance is going to affect all of my defenses and not just one. So if you're doing, if you're building so that you're using a bunch of different defenses from one hero, defense crit chance is still going to be a great choice to go into, as it's going to just affect all of your defenses. Now, if you are just spamming one main defense as your Spectral Knight, eventually you're going to want to get those points into crit chance. When do you put them in? Well, I think that the answer there is when you start focusing on crit, you want to put your points into crit chance. So when you get to a point in the game where you start using boost stars, for example, boost stars are not worth using super early game until you get a setup on them. Same thing with buff beams. Buff beams are not super worth using early game until you get shards and mods for the defenses. Now, once you start using these items, no matter, they don't have to be perfectly set up, but once you get to a point where you start using these, even if you're only spamming your one defense, I personally would definitely go into crit chance then. So you can pretty much follow the old rules and really not see any downside. But if you are focused on mainly using one defense for the majority of the workload in any of your maps, you are going to gain slightly more benefit from going into power before you bother with crit chance. So probably a little confusing if you're a brand new player. Hopefully this helped some people understand the math and the basics on each individual category. If you do have any questions about the Unified Ascension, feel free to ask me down in the comments below, and I will do my best to get your question answered. But that will do it for this one. Thanks an absolute ton for watching, y'all. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Take it easy.